Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to give you a super detailed sculpting tutorial of how I, sculpt acrylic nails and do a color inlay. So as you can see, I have my form. This form is from Exclusive Nail Couture. I think it's their old design. I take it in my fingers and I just roll it so it gets a really nice C curve. And this all is in real time. So these have a really high, little cutout for an extended hyponychium. So all I do is I just go in and I make sure the form is adhered to the nail first, and then I pinch it so that it's almost like a teardrop at the end. And then I secure what's underneath. Sometimes I open the little flaps at the back, sometimes I don't. And I just am making sure that it's lined up pretty close to the middle, and that looks pretty good. So I'm going to show you two in real time, and then I'm going to speed the rest up. So I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm taking it in between my fingers and just rolling it so it's a little bit more flexible. Now these forms are very stiff, so they hold their shape really well, and they are very sticky. So I'm just sticking it to the finger, and this is my fake hand, so it maybe is not. These stick pretty well to it, but like the cheaper forms I use don't. And since I'm going for a shorter thing than a shorter shape than the form actually, will allow, what I'm doing is I'm basically creasing off the top about where I would stop and the tip of the nail would be. So that way I get a little bit more of a slender shape with that form. Alright, so now we're going to go and we're going to speed things up. We can get another form. So I personally, I know literally every tutorial I've showed you, I've used tips on my fake hand, and I think the only one that I did on myself, it was a redesign, so I didn't have to sculpt anything, but I do like forms better than I like tips. I almost always sculpt on myself, because if I wear tips on myself and I mess with acetone, like if I'm stamping or if I'm just doing nails on someone else, then it kind of misshapes my tips, so I do like to sculpt on myself. And I think that sculpture nails are just so personal to the client. In terms of clients, it kind of depends on what I feel like. Sometimes, most of the time I sculpt, I would say. And then maybe like 20% of the time, if I feel like it, I will do tips on them. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you how I pick up my bead. So I have this, I think it's from Menda. I got it on Amazon, this little container for my monomer. I'm just going to get a bead, and you'll see when I put it down how it is the correct liquid to powder ratio, because it releases really nicely from my brush. And it doesn't really go anywhere. It just kind of sits there and waits. So anytime that my brush is going off camera, that means I'm wiping it on a little towel. And I really like the Luxe brush wipes from Exclusive Nail Couture, because they are, they're very good to get like all the stuff out of the brush. And I'm just going to shape my tip. So this is how I would sculpt my thin clear layer on a client. If you were doing tips, you would just put the tip on, and then you would put a thin clear base down onto the natural nail. But obviously if you're sculpting it, then you need to do the whole thing. So I'm just gonna play with it, and this again is in real time, so you can kind of see me and how much I take my time. And with this kind of acrylic, which is, I'm using the Exclusive Nail Couture acrylic and monomer, I have that playtime, which is nice. So I'm just kind of teasing it into place, and as you can see, I'm really not like forcing it. Like, I'm not pressing it super hard. I'm just kind of making it smooth and neat. And I am going to go in and file this, because I really do want it to be thin, but, I don't want it to be so thin that it snaps, which is just the most disheartening thing in the world. But I also don't want it to be super thick, because if it's really thick, then you're just going to run into all kinds of issues when you're putting your acrylic on, because you're basically making an acrylic sandwich when you do an inlay design of any kind, whether it's just color, or if you're encapsulating glitter, or pretty much anything into the nail. So, because you have to do this step, which is sculpt the clear base or tip and clear base, and you don't want that to be thick, and then you have to work really thin with the color that you're using, and then you have to, the thickest layer will probably be your encapsulation so that you don't file through it. You don't want that to be too thin. So as you can see right there, that went off my brush really nicely. And I'm just going to pat it, and I start right where the tip of the nail, the end of the nail, and the form kind of meet. Because that's your stress area. So I really want to make sure that I have enough product going from sidewall to sidewall, because if you don't have enough product on the sidewall, that's where you're going to get a stress crack, and that's where it's most likely to break. So I'm just making sure it's really nice and neat. I'm just making sure that it's, you know, thin enough, because I am going to file it into shape later, and I don't want to snap it. Makes it really sad when you snap it. So you might see that my forms are a little bit, this hand is hard to form in my opinion, and I think it's because it doesn't have the flexibility that a real human finger does. Like, the nail itself that I'm practicing on is so, like, rigid, like the nail that you pop in and out, that, like, it kind of just sits on the form, and the form can't really go under it super well. So that's why you will see me pinch the nails in this tutorial, which I do sometimes. I tend to pinch on myself, and I pinch short nails because I think it gives them a more slender look. So as you can see, I'm just going in, I'm with more product. I see that I needed some right by that corner in that stress area, because I'm really going to make sure everything is covered and everything is sculpted out nicely. So right there I'm doing a test pinch, and I pinched it and it was too squishy and it was kind of sticky still, so I decided to move on to the next nail. So here I'm going to speed it up for you, so we're not sitting here forever. It's already a pretty long tutorial, but I think that this would be beneficial to a lot of people, especially if you're just starting out with like acrylic inlays. And like I said, acrylic inlays are not for everybody, and it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but this is kind of what I specialize in, are all acrylic designs or the not polished designs. Yeah, I think they're really ideal because, like, for me, with how often I do nails, if I just had gel polish on top of acrylics, my gel polish would be wrecked all the time, and it's easier to fix just, like, a top coat than it is to fix an entire gel polish design. So you can see right there, that's my pinching tool. It's from Exclusive Nail Couture. It's super cheap. It's like $1, and I just dipped the, see, that bead was a little dry. It's not coming off of my brush, so it wasn't the right consistency, and I had to get some liquid to put into it. But back to the pinching tool, I put it in the powder so it doesn't stick to the nail, even if it is a little bit more sticky. When you pinch, you want to make sure you're waiting until the acrylic is kind of set up and that it goes matte, but it's cured enough that it's not going to just squish at you, so it's kind of like a happy medium. It's usually when it starts to heat up because it's having its, you know, curing reaction. So it depends on your monomer and how fast it sets, but for me, it's usually like, if I'm doing a full nail, it might be after I do the next nail that I'll go back and pinch, but if I'm doing a clear base, then I'll do 2 nails and then pinch. So as you can see, I'm just taking that off, and then I'm going to test pinch that next nail, and you can also rub it to make it cure a little faster, because the heat from your finger will help it cure a little bit faster. And now I'm just going to wait. And that is just me tapping on the nail to test and see if it's cured. So the way you take a form off is you break the seal back there with the little tabs, or if you just don't have them closed, which I don't normally, then you want to take it off from the sides, and then you want to take what's by the nail, by the extension, and pinch it, and then pull it down. So see how I'm pinching it away and it's releasing, and you pull it down. These kind of look like they might be hard to remove or they might hurt, but they should not hurt. It's basically a sticker. The amount of people that don't know, like, they're very surprised when I use forms on them is kind of shocking to me. I don't know. But, yeah, so this is just my preference. There is nothing wrong with tips. If that's how you work, then that's fine. That I don't personally like to work with tips all the time, but sometimes I do kind of want to. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to refine the shape. So I'm going for like kind of an almanetto kind of shape here, and obviously these look almost like coffin leaning or like oval leaning, so they're not almanetto. Don't worry about the enhancement turning white kind of underneath. That's literally, it's just dust that's getting trapped underneath the nail from me filing the sidewalls. So I'm just going to make sure that shape is perfect. I'm just, you know, I don't think I need to tell you all about how I shape things. I'm just having my file at a 90-degree angle to the sidewalls. Sometimes I do kind of run it under the nail a little bit. I'm just making sure it's really nice and rounded and not too sharp. I am going to run my electric file on these nails. If you do want a tutorial about shaping, I'd be more than happy to do one, but as you have probably heard me say if you've watched any of my videos, filing is not my favorite thing to do, so I just thought I'd speed right through it. But I want to show you, like, I'm filing pretty, not super aggressive, but, like, I'm filing quickly. And that's why it's okay if you build your clear base up a little bit. Like, in my opinion, it's better to build your clear base up a little bit thicker, so then you can file it into shape without it snapping, and then you can thin it out with your e-file. To me, I think that's faster than trying to do it thin, and then snapping it off while you're filing. So that's just my personal preference. I know some people will be like, well, that's just a waste of product, but that's just personally how I do it. I buy clear in bulk so that I can keep my color powders full, so I don't think of it as too much of a waste. That's just how I work. You are free to do it however you like, and, you know, I'm just kind of showing you what works for me. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my Kiara Sky Beyond Pro portable nail drill. That's a mouthful. This is the nicest drill ever. You know, I love it. It is pricey, but it is extremely worth the price. I just had to charge it for the first time, and I've had it for almost 2 weeks, and I've been using it quite a bit. I've only had to charge it for the first time, like, earlier this week. So I think that's pretty good. It has a 10-hour battery life, which is super nice. And I'm taking their fine 5-in-1 bit, and I'm just smoothing over the nail. I'm making it thinner. I'm just taking off any bulk, and yeah, I'm just basically refining it so that it's not super duper thick. And this is a great bit to do that with because it's not going to take off too much product. So it's going to leave you with a bulk of what you want. But, you know, it does take off the excess that you don't need. So you can kind of see that these are slanting a little bit upwards towards the end, and that is, you would not probably want to do that with a real finger. You just want to, when you're forming with a real finger, you just want to make sure that there's no gap in between the form and the natural nail, but these nails have absolutely no flexibility, so I don't know, I don't really worry about it a whole lot. I used to always sculpt on this thing before I could get tips to stick to it, and I just use, like, cheap forms. I don't normally use my exclusive nail couture forms on this hand, just because, they are my nice forms, and they're not too pricey. It's, like, $13 for a roll of, like, I think it's, like, 250, so Yeah, so now I'm going to take my exclusive nail couture bit, I think it's called the Magic Wand bit, and I'm just going underneath the nail. And that's really just to refine the C-curve and make sure that since the form doesn't fit super well on this hand, that the transition from natural nail to acrylic enhancement is pretty seamless, and it's just kind of taking off any extra bulk from the bottom. I find this personally, I wouldn't necessarily do this on a real person. I do sometimes, like, just in case any, like, scraggles of filing got stuck underneath the tip, especially for short nails, I do this. But I don't typically do it at this point in the service. I would do it more like when I'm finished filing the service. You know, as long as you apply your forms correctly, you really shouldn't have to file this much underneath the nail. I will take this bit sometimes and remove the natural nail from underneath the enhancement, depending on the person, if they want that, because sometimes the acrylic can lift. So with this design, I'm going in with the Glam and Glits Color Blend 1 in a Melon. It's like pretty mint green. I'm going in with Valentino Lilac, which is really pretty lilac. It's almost white leaning. I'm going to go in with Valentino in, I think this is Larkspur, or no, this is Lily. So this is a really pretty, like, springy, soft yellow. And then I'm going to use Valentino in Larkspur, which I guess that's a flower. I don't really know. And that's like a baby blue. And these Valentino powders are so nice to work with when you're encapsulating color. So I'm just going to show you here on two nails in real time how I do a color inlay. So I'm taking the colored acrylic powder, and as you can see, it's a medium to wet consistency, so it is kind of moving down the nail a little bit, but for the most part, it stayed right where I've put it, and I'm just tapping it around the cuticle to make sure that I get the cuticle application really nice and thin, yet I still want it to be, you know, very neat around the cuticle. And I'm also waiting for the rest of the body of it to set up a little bit so that I can use the belly of my brush. See, I'm using like the side of it to kind of push it to the sidewall to make sure that it's, you know, covering. And then I use the belly of my brush. And if the product starts to stick, I put a little bit more monomer on my brush and I just kind of walk the product down the nail. This is how I find to be the most effective way to do color inlays in a thin manner that you're not going to file right through them. And obviously accidents do happen. Like, I'm pretty sure when I filed this nail on the side, a little bit came off, but like, you could always fix that with like crystals, and most of the time people aren't going to notice, but this is just how I work and what I've found to be effective. So as you can see, I put a little bit of a wetter bead down towards the tip so that I can really mold the tip. And then I blend it back with just the belly of my brush. You could flip your brush around and do it. That's normally what I would do. That's what feels natural to me. But it's hard for me to flip my brush around and blend things while I'm filming with the filming setup that I currently have. So I'm probably going to add another wetter bead closer to the cuticle just to build the color up a little bit more and just kind of wipe it down the nail. This color is super pretty, and the Valentino, I only have these 3 Valentino colors, but the Valentino powders are really nice to work with. They're so buttery, and they really respond well to the pat and pull, like, I'm gonna let you set up kind of thing, which not all of the Glam and Glits powders do. In my opinion, the color blend ones don't really do that too well, as you'll kind of see when I work on the middle finger. So now I'm going in with Lily, right? Yes, the other one was Lilac. So this yellow is just so pretty, and it just screams spring to me. I normally don't like yellow nails, but I had all of these colors on my hand in the set before the one that I have on now, and they were so, so pretty, and they were super, they were easy to work with once I kind of figured them out. Like, I don't know. Every acrylic is different, so you kind of have to let yourself learn what's best for each acrylic system. Each acrylic system is not the same. And so, you know, you kind of find your groove, and that's what you do. So I kind of want to bounce back to the container that I have from my monomer. I really love this container. So it's from Menda, and I got it on Amazon. I'll try to link it down below. I don't know. I got it in like December, and up until December, I had just a little dappen dish that I would put acrylic in, but it kind of bothered me because if I was using like these pastel colors are very pigmented, and since they are pigmented and they're pastel, they are formulated with white, and it kind of can cloud your monomer because white is not super easy for me to work with. I don't know, maybe I'm just missing something, but normally like my ratio is good enough that it will it won't cloud my monomer, but with things that are heavily pigmented with white, I don't know. I just can't seem to keep my monomer clean. But I like this Menda dispenser because it only dispenses what I need, which is usually like 2 or 3 little pumps, and it stays in the dish. It doesn't go back into the monomer that I have in the bottle or in the container, and it doesn't contaminate it. It's also nice for glitter because you know how like if you do like a glitter inlay, that glitter can just like stick in your monomer, and then it'll be in the clear cap, and it's just really annoying. So I really love this thing. It is a little on the pricier side for just a thing to hold monomer. It is, I think it's like $20 or something, but I also find that it controls the smell really well. So like, it controls the smell a lot better than if I just had a dappen dish of acrylic sitting out, because that's like a lot more monomer that's just in the air and sitting there. So I have found that this controls the scent really well. Like, actually, my boyfriend was standing behind me while I was doing this, and he was like, you know, I don't hate the smell of monomer anymore, which is good because we live in a tiny apartment, and I mean, I don't dislike the smell of monomer, but some people really do. And hopefully here in the near future I'll be reviewing something that might help alleviate that. But, you know, and like I tried to do nails in my dorm like last year when I was in college. Well, I'm still in college, but when I was living in a dorm, and I tried to do acrylic nails once or twice, and God, it just did not go well. The cleaning ladies were out in the hall, and they're like, what's that smell? It smells like a nail salon. Like, the ventilation just wasn't there. But in my apartment, you know, I can open the door, I can open the window, and this little dispenser does help. So now I'm going in with that One in a Melon from Glam and Glits, and you can kind of see that, like, this color wants to blend more than it just wants to lay and be pigmented. Like, I kind of have to build it up a little bit more than I have to build up the Valentino ones, but this blends so nicely. So I think you kind of have to compromise some things sometimes with colored acrylics. Like, if you want it to be really, you know, in a buttery pat and pull kind of product, then Valentino would probably be what's for you. Like this beautiful Larkspur color. And I have a baby blue from Glam and Glits, but I find that I actually kind of like this Larkspur a little bit better for encapsulating color. Now for blending color, this blends okay, but if I was blending a baby blue or a, you know, kind of color, I would definitely go with the Glam and Glits Color Blend collection because they are pigmented, but they also blend well. So you kind of just have to think about what you want for your nail service, and it depends on what you're doing with the product. You know, not one product is right for everybody. You know, I know a lot of people who don't order from Exclusive Nail Couture because of some of the customer service issues that they have had in the past, and some of the, I don't know, I guess drama that has been happening with it since like December-ish. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to the long hair pretty nails video that Evie just did, because she kind of gives the whole tea on it. I don't mind that, so, and I've never had a problem with them, and it's affordable, so I'll keep ordering from them until I have a problem that directly affects me. But, you know, you do what you guys want to do. So now I'm going to go in with the clear cap, and I don't aim to get the clear cap with one bead. If it happens, it happens, and I'm just kind of like, okay. I am using Exclusive Nail Couture Crystal Clear as always, and as you can see, I tap it into the cuticle area, and then I use the belly of my brush to really pull it down. But I really want to kind of keep the bead on the wetter side, so it has that really clear, glass-like effect, and that you're not going to see any like clouding in your colored acrylic design, or you're not having any uncured powder. So it's kind of like it flows down the nail, and you want to let the acrylic work for you. So you want to kind of trust the flow of the product itself. Just kind of wet the nail with monomer to make sure that you don't get any shadowing, because that's what shadowing can kind of be when you're doing a clear cap, is you might get a bead that's a little bit too dry or has some excess powder. See, like this has some excess powder on it, but as soon as I set it down, all of that powder is polymerized by the monomer that I put on to the enhancement. So this is your strength. This is your strength in your little acrylic sandwich that you are making. In my experiences, if you're just doing a color acrylic, like I actually think it's on this one that I file through the clear cap, it's not the biggest deal in the world if you do file through the clear capping in some spots. Sometimes it shows, sometimes it doesn't. This time it didn't really show when I put the top coat on, and it was fine. But you really want to be careful, especially if you're encapsulating like objects or like glitters, especially because you don't want to file through to the glitter, because especially for glitters, if you file through to like a finer glitter, it's going to cut the glitter particle in half, and it's going to turn silver on you, which if you're doing silver, like, yeah, that's fine, but it dulls it. But if you're doing like a rose gold or something, like, and you see specks of silver that aren't supposed to be there, then you're going to know that you filed through your clear cap. So that's why you kind of want to, it's better to make it thicker than not, because you can fix it in the filing, but you want to make sure you have your apex towards the stress point of the nail, which is where the nail tip or the end of the nail, I keep saying nail tip, end of the nail and the enhancement free edge meet. I'm not super worried about apex on these nails because obviously they're not on a person, but, you know, I'm kind of turning this to the side, and as you can see, they do have a pretty nice curve on them. These nails aren't super duper long, so they wouldn't need like a crazy high apex, but you still do need to have something because they are on like a, I don't know, I call these like a medium length side. So you just want to be mindful of that. So I'm just going to wait for that to cure up, and then I'm going to go in with that Kiara Sky drill bit in the 5-in-1 Fine, the same one that I used to debulk the clear layer, and I'm just going to debulk the nail. So you can see I filed off a little bit on that side, and honestly, you know, nails are a really creative profession or hobby or what have you. So every time you do nails, it's not going to be like amazing. There's going to be some days that you just have an off day and you're going to be like, oh, I filed that side a little too thin, you know, when I went through into the color. Darn. You know, you are only human, and while you can try to be as consistent as possible in your application and your filing routine, and the more consistent you are, and if you apply the acrylic the same way every time, you're going to get similar results every single time, but it's not going to be the same because we are human beings. So as you can see, I'm just feeling the top of that nail, to see if it's smooth enough. And this bit does a great job. I've talked about it on my channel before. It does a great job of like smoothing a bit or smoothing a nail that I've already done a pretty good job with acrylic application, and it's great for going around the cuticle because it seals the edge of, or the, it seals the cuticle of like, the cuticle area of the product. My goodness, I just can't get these words right today. Without like cutting into the natural nail if it touches it, because it is blunted a little bit on the end. Even though it looks sharp, it's got like a little blunt on the end that fits really well into the cuticle area, and you don't get a ring of fire, which I know I've talked about before, but I don't think I explained it. So a ring of fire is if you use a smooth top barrel bit, and it has a very sharp edge, and you're, you know, filing around the cuticle area, and you're getting it really, really flush to the natural nail, and you're like, okay, I think I've done it. But then you look as the nail grows out, or maybe as you, like, are filing off the set, or going in for a fill, and you kind of see a little indentation in the, natural nail that is like the shape of the cuticle area, and that is just where the bit has kind of made an indentation to the natural nail, and that's not healthy, and then it just doesn't look pretty. So this bit does not do that. Now, I have become pretty proficient, I believe, with the electric file. This electric file gives me the ability to really control how I'm using it, because I can see the RPMs, the rotations per minute that I'm using it on. I think I'm using it on a 15 here. And I'm really not using any pressure. I'm not pressing at all. I'm just trying to make the nail really smooth and ready for application. So, okay, I have buffed them and they are ready for top coat. I'm going to use the shiny top coat from Exclusive Nail Couture, and I'm gonna apply, you know, a decent amount. I really hate it when I get like little fuzzies or little pieces of dust in there, so you really want to make sure you cleanse the nails pretty well. Max says to not use alcohol when you cleanse the nails for the shiny. He says it'll lift, but I've never had a problem with it. It really gets all the dust away. I just think like a little piece of raised dust like on a top coat really just ruins the work. But as you can see, like I did file through that yellow one a little bit, the clear cap, and it still looks absolutely fine. But as you can see, like the mint green one is almost not as vibrant as the other ones because it's a different brand and it's just meant for a different use. So once that is applied, I'm going to cure that in my Darling lamp for 60 seconds. I would, if it was a client, I would wait about 10 seconds and apply some cuticle oil to replenish the moisture in the nail. And there's our finished look. So I hope you guys learned something. If there's anything that you would like me to do a even more detailed tutorial on, I would be happy to oblige. Comment down below what you would like to see next from me. Be sure to like this video and please subscribe to my channel. So I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.